Because yeah, what I'll show you is I'll show you kind of the cycle of sales and what it takes. I got about a half hour, so I'll go through the whole cycle of sales and what it takes to actually create a customer and why we do the job the way we do it.
Okay, cool. Give me one more second right here.
Can do.
All right, I'm ready.
And by the way, Peter, I'm expecting that after I'm done with this, you'll have absorbed maybe 10% of it. So this won't be the only time we ever talk about this. We'll always come back to it all summer long. I'll be like, all right, guys, here's where we're missing. Here's the step that we got to go back to. So the first step, what you just asked about, the first step, when you picture the cycle of sales, it's kind of like, you got to do this step, and then you do this step, and then you do this step, and eventually it leads you to a yes, and then you start over again, right?
Gotcha.
That's why we call it the cycle of sales. So the first step is prospecting. So prospecting is figuring out which doors you're actually going to knock on.
Right.
And the first thing there's a couple of people who aren't prospects. So people who aren't prospects, it's really one big category, renters. So we can't set up someone who rents their house. A renter is not a prospect. Who else is a prospect? Who is a prospect? The definition is someone who's willing and able to make a decision in 90 minutes or less. Okay?
Got it.
That's a prospect. Now, we found that there are certain ways to make sure you're talking to a prospect versus just randomly knocking on doors. So our Polaris, the app, have you seen that at all?
Yeah, I saw that, and it's like color coded and stuff.
It's color coded. It tells you how old they are, how long they've lived there, how much money they make, if they're married, if they have kids. Like, you know a lot about them. So you've got different times of knocking. You've got daytime. And someone who's home during the daytime is typically going to be older and retired. Right?
Yeah.
So I prospect to the point where if it's between 2 o'clock in the afternoon and 5 o'clock, I have two categories of people I'm talking to. One, anyone who's home, right? If they're obviously home, I'll knock on that door. Or if they're older than 65. Other than that, there's a 90% chance there's nobody standing behind that door.
Gotcha.
So if I look down at my Polaris and it says they're 45, married, they make $120,000 a year, it's 2 in the afternoon, there's one car in the driveway, chances are that's a babysitter or the wife is home and the husband's not there, not a good time to go knock because she's not going to make the decision without him. Not saying she can't, just generally speaking, that doesn't really, you'll go through an hour and a half of stuff and then she'll say, I need to talk to my husband. So you want to catch both decision makers at the same time. So the daytime, you're looking for older people, retired people, people who are obviously home. And then and then after 5, it's everybody else, not old people. Because you get in the house at 6 o'clock, you're done with your presentation at 7 o'clock, they say yes, the technician gets there at 7:30, they want to go to bed at 8 o'clock, and now it's like awkward, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to knock on doors where I know they're going to go to sleep at 7 o'clock. So who fits in your everybody else category? Who fits in your everybody else category is people who own the house 5 years or less. 5 years, less than 5, whatever. Less than 5 years. I don't know how that sign goes, but less than 5 years. Those are great prospects, right? And then people who are with our competitors. So I can knock on a door where they have ADT and just say, hey, the reason I stopped by, I'm Jake, I work with North Star. You guys were set up by, it looks like you're set up with ADT system. Is that something you did or was that already here? No, that's something we did. Oh, cool, awesome. Now my guess is you have a keypad like this one. Yeah, how'd you know that? Well, ADT kind of does the same system for everybody. You're probably paying $50-$60 a month for basic security. Yeah, cool. Here's why I stopped by. North Star wanted to pay to like add a whole bunch to your system, and then I'll get into that. But so those are great prospects too, is people are competitors and people who live there for less than 5 years.
Why less than 5 years?
Because if they live there for over 6, now I'm not saying don't knock on a door if they've been there more than 5 years. But as far as their open-mindedness to what we do, if they've lived there for 6 years, they've probably had other people knock on their door trying to sell them security, right?
Oh, okay.
So if they've lived there for 10 years and they don't have an alarm system, and one of their neighbors has Vivint and one has ADT, it's like, I mean, they're not for sure a no, but unless they were just recently broken into or their family was recently broken into, my guess is they're not thinking about getting an alarm system. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's just being smarter. Like if you were selling cars and someone walked in, they're like, yeah, I never buy a car from a dealership. You wouldn't spend time with that person. You go, okay, cool, man, I'll let you talk to one of our interns. I'm going to go over here and talk to this one. It's not saying that they would never buy. It's just, I'm not going to go to those people until I've been in the neighborhood for a while.
Gotcha.
Because we're only in neighborhoods for 2 or 3 weeks, right? So if I'm in this neighborhood for 2 weeks and everybody's getting it, like literally everybody's like, man, this is awesome. Other guys have come through here. You're the one that we want to work with. I love you. Like I've had neighborhoods like that. I had one down in Texas where it was like, I must have been the 8th guy that came through in a month, but everybody loved me. I got on their webpage. The guys were like, North Star guy's awesome. If you're looking for security, get it from Jake. And so I first went to all our competitors and people who were there for less than 5 years. Then I started going to the people who've been there longer than 5 years.
Okay.
Hey man, I'm Jake.
Just because at that point you've like reached critical mass in that neighborhood pretty much.
Totally. And I'm like, you've probably seen all these signs popping up, the light blue ones. Yeah, that's me. I know that a lot of people don't get security in this neighborhood. You obviously haven't in 8 years. But because you've been here so long, we wanted to partner with you. Or most people want to hear about what we're doing anyways. And they're like, okay, I'd love to hear about it. And it's wild how you want to spend your time with the most likely prospects first and work your way to the unlikely ones.
Gotcha.
Cool? You don't have to memorize that right now, but that's prospecting. So to answer your question, no, I'm not going to knock on every single door in the neighborhood. I'm going to knock on the first 100 that I know are like prime prospects, then the next 100. And if I can't get any footing in the first 4 days that I'm in a neighborhood, going to all the best prospects, like, all right, time to probably switch neighborhoods. And you never make that decision, I do. I'll look at your stats and go, okay, Peter's been here for 4 days, he's talked to all these people, either his approach sucks or something's weird about the neighborhood, let's talk about it. Cool?
Cool.
All right, so that's prospecting. I'm gonna erase this. Did you get all that?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Typed.
Awesome. So that's a prospect. You don't get paid to stand on doorsteps. You get paid to actually like talk to people and sell alarms.
Yeah.
So your goal is that every door you knock on has a person behind it. That's number one. When you're really good at prospecting, this job's a lot easier. So that's number one. Number two is the approach. So once you have found a prospect or a house you want to knock on and you believe that they're home, because you want to only go when they're home, so you believe they're home, you're going to go knock on the door. There's 2 different approaches. Well, first of all, here's why you do your approach. You've heard of Simon Sinek before?
I've not. I have no experience in sales.
Cool. So go to Simon's. There's a TED Talk. You don't have to do it right now, but just jot it down. There's a TED Talk by Simon Sinek called The Golden Circle, and it's Golden Circle. It's from the book Start With Why. But what he talks about is there's 3 different levels to every argument. Argument meaning trying to get a girl to date you. Argument meaning trying to sell something. Argument meaning trying to apologize for breaking your great-grandma's lamp. Like whatever it is, there's 3 levels to it. There's the what. There's the what level, the why level, the how level, and then the why level. And most people are ineffective in communication because they move this way. So, take for example, you need to borrow $1,000 from one of your buddies. Most guys would say, hey man, I need to borrow $1,000. And he immediately goes, whoa, why? Why do you need $1,000? Like, what are you talking? And he's already defensive. No, you don't understand. Because I'll pay you back. Here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to pay you back over the next 6 months. Yeah, but why do you need it? Well, the reason why I need it is because my grandma's in the hospital. It's like a whole argument But if you started like, yeah, man, it's been crazy. My grandma's in the hospital. We've been doing everything we can to scrounge together money for her. I've worked with a couple other people. I borrowed some money here and there. I've been paying them back on a monthly basis. And I don't know if this even works for you. Is there any way I could borrow $1,000? It's just a different conversation, right?
Yeah.
So when I knock on their door, it's not, hey, are you the homeowner? Is it Peter? Cool, Peter. I want you to get an alarm system. And how it works is we put a sign in your yard. And the reason why is that helps us advertise. Right? It's just weird. Versus, hey, man, the reason I stopped by is we wanted to partner with you guys to help us get some awareness in the neighborhood for Honeywell's new smart home products. How it works is the same stuff we're going to try to sell everybody, we give to a few families over the next 4 or 5 years, and then it becomes more of a household name. So what it is this, right? It just opens up their mind in a different way. So when you read through that sales process again, you'll see it's almost 100% written from why to what. There's always the why first and then the what. Cool?
Makes sense.
That's your approach. Your approach is designed to do 3 things. First thing you want to do, connect with them. Number 2 is you want to explain why you're there. Why, how, and what. I said 3 things. Those are the 2 things you want to do in your approach. Cool?
Cool.
Awesome. All right. Third thing is your transition. So the transition... Yes,
you
sir.
said there was 2 different approaches?
Yeah, there are. Sorry, there's 2 different approaches, and you'll learn those later. There's one for a fresh door where they don't have an alarm system, and there's one where they already have an alarm system.
Oh, gotcha.
They're 80% the same. They're just slightly different in how you start them.
Okay.
Cool?
Cool.
We'll get those, I promise. So the transition is what you say. The transition is how you get from standing on their porch to in their house. So the way you get that is so after you've done your approach, if you've connected and they understand why, then what you need to do is you need to create/define a reason to get inside. Here's why. On the front porch, if the total amount of trust a person would ever give a salesman, let's say they could give 100% trust to someone who stopped on the front porch, how much of that do you think you can earn on the front porch?
Hardly anything.
Maybe 5 to 10%. If I'm really good, they'll be like, I kind of trust this guy. You can come on in. And it's like literally the moment you cross the threshold, you go from 10% trust to 50% trust. And then if you get to the back door and you can properly justify why you got in their house and sound like an expert, you go to 80%. And then you spout off a few things about their neighborhood, you get to know them, and then it's just rapport and all that, and the trust builds. Right?
Gotcha.
So the goal in the transition is to get from that 10% zone to the 50% zone inside the house. The way you do that is you ask a question. They don't know the answer to. Because it's really easy to justify going in their house if they don't know the answer to your question.
Yeah.
You know, hey, how many doors do you guys have that go outside the house? And you saw this in the approach, or in the script, right? I have 3.
Yeah.
The one in the back, is that a standard door or is it a slider? It's a sliding door. Okay. Do you have any idea how big the cleaning gap is on the top? It's a weird question, but it changes how we put the sensor on it. I don't even know what you're talking about. Cool, why don't I show you real fast? It's just easy, right? You every once in a while, every 5 houses, 10 houses, they'll go, it's an inch. And you're like, okay, cool, it's an inch. Do you know, is it a plastic door? Is it a metal door? Is it aluminum? Do you guys have any idea what it's made out of? No, does it have the lift stoppers in it? I have no idea what you're talking about. Cool, why don't you show me real fast? Like, there's a lot. And then, but what happens is if you ask a question that's stupid, like if you just make something up, like, is there a thingamabobber on the who's a what's? And they're like, huh? Let me show you. And you get back there and there's no such thing as a who's a what's or a thingamabobber, your trust goes to 0 and they kick you out.
Yeah.
Right? So you've got to ask questions that actually make sense and have anything to do with what we're doing. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you guys have single pane windows? Great, let me see them. Sure, you can justify why a single pane window would be a reason to get in a house, but they're going to smell right through it. The reason we ask that gap, and you'll see this when you actually get on the doors and watch it, you can literally lift a door off if it's got a big enough gap in it.
Right.
And most people are like, are you kidding me? Like, I'll have people go, oh man, what? That's crazy. And it's a very easy illustration of why an alarm system would make sense. So that's your transition. Cool?
Cool.
All right. Step 4. The walkthrough. Okay? So I'm just going to quickly list. Now, by the way, I should have said this in the beginning, Peter. If this is everything you need to learn to sell alarms with us, the technical part is like 20%. 80% of it is your attitude, your mentality, how you're actually being, like your persistence, all of that goes in here. The 20% technical stuff is all of the stuff we're going through right now. And it's in your sales talk, and we'll cover it like every single day during the summer. But 80% of your success this summer has nothing to do with your approach. It has everything to do with like who you're being when you talk to people.
Gotcha.
Because if you're walking around
Makes
pissed,
sense.
if you walk around pissed off all day, you're not going to do very well. So, at any rate, here's your walkthrough. So your walkthrough, there's a bunch of different steps to it. I'm going to fly through these. So, step 1, create a buying atmosphere. I'm going to ask you 2 different questions real fast. First one, what is a buying atmosphere? Don't worry about answering, but do you feel a little bit of pressure right now to answer?
Yeah.
Okay. Versus, hey man, I know you probably don't know what a buying atmosphere is, and I want you to take a shot. If you get it right, that's cool. If you get it wrong, that's totally cool too. I'm just interested to hear what your brain says. So what do you think a buying atmosphere is? Now it's totally okay to fail, right?
Yeah.
So a buying atmosphere in the house is, instead of walking in and just like being a bulldog and trying to sell them, I'm going to go, hey look, this isn't for everybody. My job is to explain how it all works. If you like it, it provides value and your family's going to love it, then we'll do it. But if you're not going to use it, or you're not going to get value from it, or I got bad breath or whatever, just kick me out. And they laugh. And they go, seriously, you'll know. And all of a sudden they go from this is a salesman to let's go on an adventure with this guy to figure out if this is going to be a good fit.
Yeah.
So that's your buying atmosphere. After you create a buying atmosphere, you want to discover their needs. First of all, if you can't create a buying atmosphere, you're probably going to leave. If you can't discover a need, you're probably going to leave. These are all like, they're kind of steps to the leaving. Once you discover their need, you're going to build the system. It's kind of like you're in a VR helmet building the system in their house. That's how I picture it. So you build the system. Once you build the system, you're going to tell vivid stories.
Tell vivid stories?
Yep, vivid stories.
Oh, tell vivid stories. Okay.
Not vivint, vivid,
Yeah.
right? So this is, if they tell me like, yeah, the biggest thing I ever worry about is like a fire. My grandma had a fire, her cats burned alive, and that's just why I want one of these systems I always have. Great. What we're gonna do is we're gonna put a smoke alarm right here. The reason we do that is if there's ever an electrical fire, this is how it works. So if your cat goes and hides underneath the bed and they're picturing it, and it's not to scare them, it's just to help them understand like, this is how this works. You're taking them on a test. This is the test drive.
Gotcha.
But you can't like burn their house down, right? So you gotta like give them a visual test drive. So that's the visual test drive. And then after you've done that, you're gonna summarize. So you're gonna create a buying atmosphere, discover their needs, build the system, tell vivid stories, then summarize the system so they know exactly what they're getting. That's the walkthrough. Cool?
Gotcha.
All right. And we'll spend probably 80% of your technical training on the walkthrough and the approach, like these 4 steps. Because then number 5, this is where it gets easy. The Polaris pad is what we call this. It'll make more sense once you've been on the doors. This is a Polaris pad.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of just like a sketch so you can show them the value. So with the Polaris pad, you're showing the value. you are revealing the investment. 2 investments, right? You're revealing, this is what North Star is going to invest into you. This is how much it costs per month. Those are probably the 2 biggest things you're doing with the Polaris pad. This is where you'll know if they're a yes or a no, right here. This is where you'll know. And if you've done a poor job of this stuff, you'll find out. If you've done a good job, they'll go, oh, okay. And then the next steps are pretty quick. So to the credit check, I'm just gonna whip through these because these are all word for word. You memorize them, you'll be able to do them. And then we'll have to teach you how to answer objections. But once you've got these memorized, you'll be good. So the credit check, number 7 is the system build. And the system build is actually on the iPad. So this is you building the system on the iPad. And what you're doing right here, Peter, is you're proving the value. So here you're showing them the value, but it's handwritten. Now I'm proving them the value because it's on an iPad, it's official, and these are all real numbers.
Yeah.
Right? In here, I'm also explaining the contract length.
So, but those fresh door sales, do they actually get the system for free, or are they paying $50?
No, they're going to pay the monthly bill. Everybody pays a monthly bill no matter what. But all the equipment, the instead of doing $1,400 for free, we'll do $3,500 worth of equipment and value for free.
Oh, okay, I see. Okay, so they're still paying a monthly for the system. They just get all the equipment free.
Correct. Yep. And,
Gotcha.
And here's the thing: is most people are willing to pay $50 or $60 for an alarm system. It's just with most companies, the equipment you get for that amount is like nothing.
Yeah.
You know, so then people wait till they're broken into, then they pay $50 or $60 for just a piece of crap system.
Yeah.
And then you knock on their door and they say, "Why'd you get this?" "Well, we were broken into." "Cool. Does it cover your windows?" "No." "All right, I'll cover all your windows and we'll pay for it." Keep the bill the same. And they're like, "Oh, all right, that makes sense."
Yeah.
So, and everybody knows they're paying a monthly bill. They'll ask you. You'll get it every single house. "Well, what's the monthly bill?" It just depends on what we do in the house. How much is the monthly bill? Honestly, it honestly does depend on what we do in the house. So there's a math formula for all this. But this is where you're explaining to them, you're proving the value, explaining the contract, and telling them there's an activation fee. So that's number 7. Number 8. Is the agreement, like the agreement or contract. This is actually signing it. Number 9 is the welcome call. So we have to do a call, like a customer service call with them, where we call into corporate and verify that they understand everything. They understand the monthly bill, they understand they're not paying for the equipment, they understand the contract length, everything. And then number 10 is the installation. So, it took me 20 minutes to explain this. I spent 15 minutes up here and 5 minutes down here. Why do you think that is?
So the first part is more important.
Dude, if you do all this stuff right, this part is easy. Like if you build enough value and I tell them, like, look, the only thing you guys have to pay, most companies would charge you $80 or $90 for this. It's just gonna be $65 to turn it on and we'll pay for all the equipment. They're like, all right, we're in. If you've done this well, that's the answer you get. If you haven't done it well, then they're like, I don't know, maybe we should think about it. What that means is you didn't create enough value. So you circle back up, create more value, then go back through these steps, right?
Yeah.
I always try to like compare it to something people know. So like dating, for instance. You're married or dating? Anyone?
No.
Okay.
Well, I'm dating. I'm not married.
Cool. So you're not married. So when you're dating, right, you've got your prospecting.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna try to figure out who's a good prospect. Who do you want to, talk to? Then you've got your approach. It's got to be laid back. It's got to be cool. You got to explain why you're talking to them. You don't want to dive right in with like, hey, the reason I'm talking to you is because I want to take you home. Right? They can't start with the what. I start with the why. You're beautiful. You're gorgeous. Then you have the transition to like, hey, let's go over here. Let's play a game, buy a drink, whatever. Your walkthrough, that's like your dance moves. You're really demonstrating the product for them. Your Polaris pad, you're really showing them what you're like. Credit check, I don't think that really applies here. Maybe this is figuring out if they have a boyfriend or not. Probably should have done that up here. The system, I'll let you figure out what this stuff is. But the point is, if at any point you get stopped, a lot of times you go back and start again. And that's just the cycle of sales, and it goes into everything in life. It goes into when you're buying a car, you'll see them do this. When you're making a decision to come work with us, right? John and Braxton saw you as someone who could get value from this, so they approached you about it. Then they had a longer conversation about it. Then they explained what the job was, showed you on paper what it would look like. Like, it's literally every conversation does this, just most people don't write it out.
Yeah.
So does that make sense, all that?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Any questions about it?
Nope. Pretty clear.
Here's why I take so long to explain it. It's actually to do something a little bit different. If we take the steps of the sale, and this is more visual, so you don't actually have to write it down. Okay, if these are the steps of the sale, and this is time over a particular day. This is what your day might look like. Not home, not home, not home, home, not interested, not interested, not home, not interested, not home, not home, not home, not interested, not interested, not interested. You get in, but they're not interested, not home, not home, not home. You get in, can't find a need, not home, not interested, not interested, come back later, not home, not home, not home. Get in, they're not interested, not home, not home, not interested, not interested. Get all the way in and they fail credit, not home, not interested, not home, not interested. Your appointment, oh my gosh, they were actually there and they bought something, that's awesome. Not home, appointment, not interested, not home, appointment, not interested, not home. So, there's a day.
Yeah.
Here's why I explain this. On this particular day, how many times did you have to do the actual welcome call and installation? Once. How many times did you have to do the contract on paper or on the iPad?
Once.
How many times did you have to explain and reveal the investment?
Once.
Kind of unclear, but once. Yeah.
Twice.
Right?
Okay.
You had to know how to check their credit twice. You had to walk through their house and summarize it 3 times. I don't know if this is accurate now, but you get the point, right? So as we're going back, less and less, what do you spend the majority of your day doing?
The first part, the approach.
Finding people home, talking to them, and trying to get in the house. And if you can't do that, does any of this other stuff matter? No. So you'll notice in my training, it's almost like I want you to crawl before you walk. Like, I'll never put the cart before the horse, because if you can't do this well, none of the other stuff even matters. It's important, which is why you have a sales script and why you have all that stuff. It's important to learn it, and most of it's just word for word anyways, but this part is the most important thing the first couple weeks.
Gotcha.
Cool?
Cool.
Do you want a trick to do this better, though?
Yeah.
All right, here's your trick. The 3 keys to selling. There's 3 reasons why people buy. And I feel like you can have number 1 and you don't even need number 2 or 3. But if you only have number 2 or 3, you'll never get the sale. So the 1 is the most important. Without it, you'll never sell anything. 3 is the least important and kind of a bonus. So what are the 3 reasons people buy things? Why they would buy from you? All right, 3 reasons people would buy something from you, Peter.
There's a need.
Cool. So the product. I'm going to assert the product doesn't actually matter.
Oh, okay.
If you've got the other 2 things, the other one doesn't matter.
They want it.
Nope, that's the product.
Oh, okay. So I'm trying to figure out why they would buy from me.
Yep. If it's not the product, what else would it be?
The presentation.
Okay, I'll call it this. They like you.
Okay.
I don't know if that's what you were trying to say, but I'll give it to you. They like you.
Trust.
They trust you. You may not be like me, but you might be like me. I don't know. It's a scary question to ask. Have you ever bought anything just because you trusted someone?
Yeah, all the time.
Dude, all the time. My buddy's like, hey, buy this. I'm like, all right, sweet. I don't even know what the hell it is, but I'm going to buy it because I trust him. And so if you can learn how on the front porch to have someone trust you in 7 seconds, you'll use that for the rest of your life, and the rest of it's a bonus. Now, just because they trust you doesn't mean they're going to buy, but without it, they won't. Right? So they have to trust you, and they should like you, and then the product is pretty cool.
So how in 7 seconds can you get someone to trust you? Is it just wording, or is it just like the way you hold yourself, or what?
So that's where the job becomes a lot of fun, because, and my numbers are probably off on this, but it's like the three forms of communication. You've got verbal, which is the words. Nonverbal, which is your physicalness. And then you've got metaverbal, which is intonation, pace, all those things. Okay, these are the 3 forms of communication. The words only comprise of, in communication, in listening, it's like 7% of communication is, they say 93% of communication is nonverbal, right? So
yeah,
the words are only 7%. The metaverbal, I think, is like 13% or something like that. And then how you're actually standing, how you're being, how your face looks, all that is like 80% of communication.
Gotcha.
Because if you walk up to someone's house and you're just like, hey, how are ya? And they're like, I can't trust this guy, you don't even have a chance. Doesn't matter what you're saying. So when you watch guys work, the guys who are the best are the ones who are being the most real. The most real. And when I knock on a door and they come out, I'm genuinely excited to meet them. And then if they say, if their dog like humps my leg, I'm not going to ignore it. I'm like, dude, your dog's got a relationship with my leg right now. Like, do we need to get married? Is there a dowry involved? And I'll just like mess with them. And then they're like, yeah. And then they laugh. And if you can get them to laugh, that usually means they trust you and they're on their way to liking you.
Sure.
Right? And again, this is, I'll use it in a comparison in relationships, right? It doesn't matter how cut you are, how beautiful you are, how great your abs are. If she doesn't like you or trust you, it's never going to work. Right? You can even be really good looking and she thinks you're funny, but if she can't trust you, it's not going to work. The other way around, if she trusts you, sometimes she doesn't even have to like you. Like, my wife doesn't like me all the time. She loves me all the time, but she doesn't like me all the time, right? Sometimes I'm just a human. And, I mean, I got to go to the gym because every once in a while the product ain't that great, but she trusts me. And that's why trust is so important. So this is kind of your sales 101 today. And that's how to do the job, why communication is so important, and then what you're actually doing in the sales process.
Gotcha.
Cool? So part of the trust thing too, I mean, to bring it up, there's a contract. Everybody knows there's a contract. They're always wondering, is there a contract? So when people ask me if there's a contract, what do most salespeople do? What do you think most salespeople try to do?
Well, I mean, you can't lie to them, so you got to say yes, right?
I agree with that, but what most people do is they try to dodge it.
Okay.
They're not lying. Is there a contract? Is there a contract? It just kind of depends. It's not an answer. It depends. And the reason you can justify that is, well, there is a contract if you get it, and there isn't a contract if you don't. So to answer your question of is there a contract, it depends. Or is there a contract? Well, there's a certain amount of time that we guarantee the rate for, and we do ask you to keep it for a certain amount of time. It's not saying no, but it's also not saying yes, right? So right there, when you start dodging questions, they trust you less.
Yeah.
So but if you don't know how to say it in the right way, is there a contract? Yes, there is. We're not interested. Okay, see you later. Like, if you don't know how to answer it the right way, it still could be a problem. So the answer is, of course there's a contract. Everybody does contracts. Absolutely. We'd be crazy not to do one. Now, with your system, would you want the thing over here or over here? And then you answer the question honestly, and you go back to whatever you're talking about. And then there's different ways to explain it and how we get through it, but they'll trust you much more if you're not afraid to like lose them as a customer. Cool?
Gotcha. Cool.
All right. So that's your sales 101. Any questions about that?
No, it makes sense. I got the notes.
Nice. So we have another meeting scheduled.
Practice.
We've got another meeting scheduled Thursday, right?
Yeah, what time did you want to do Thursday?
Let me see what my schedule is. Give me 1 second to pull up my computer.